Russia changes nuclear policy as Ukraine fires U.S. missiles into Russia. The White House National Security Council said the U.S. has not seen any changes in Russia's nuclear posture. It just happened. It just happened. Like, what do you expect to see change in like 24 hours? All these people. So Ukraine's military fired several long-range American missiles into Russia this week on the 100th day of the war, marking the first time it has done so since Russia invaded back in early 2022. Man, I can't believe it's even been that long. It feels like just yesterday. It feels like yesterday Russia invaded Ukraine, and then Karine Jean-Pierre stood on the podium during the White House press briefing and told all of us that it was called the Putin's price hike of why you're paying $7 a gallon for gas. Now, I live in California, and that's literally what we were paying. Okay, some of you weren't paying that, but that's what we got here. So it feels like it hasn't been that long, but it has. Jeez Louise. I feel like we've been the war ourselves. That's a joke, okay? We've been through a lot, though. Thank God Trump's back in office. We'll be in 2 months. 6 American missiles were used in the pre-dawn attack that struck an ammunition depot in Russia's region. Russia claimed it shot down 5 of the 6. I was going to mention that, but it seems like they got it here. But that information had not been independently verified. The attack came just a couple of days after Joe Biden, here we go, authorized to use American-made missiles for strikes inside Russia after resisting Ukraine's request to do so for many months. My question is that if we know Vladimir Putin has a problem with us giving Ukraine, say, missiles, I get like, hey, give them some Humvees and stuff, give them some guns or whatever. But missiles, why would you give them the long-range missiles that could be used to go into Russia? Why couldn't we have just, like, I don't know, done like a multi-trade deal here where maybe it was Israeli missiles. I don't know. Maybe it was like, ship, you guys over there in the UK, you have missiles, and we know the French don't. That's a terrible joke. I'm sorry. But realistically, could we have used the French's missiles, the Frenchies, and just said, we're going to launch some French fries over there, Putin. Just French fries, don't worry. They're hot and spicy, but they're good. That's my question. Like, I don't know why he's doing this, meaning Joe. I don't know if he's trying to stir the pot because he's upset that Donald Trump won. Not sure. Some analysts were concerned that the strikes represented an escalation in the war, while others believe that the strikes strengthened Ukraine's negotiating position ahead of President-elect Donald Trump coming back into office. Trump has pledged to force a quick end to the war. Now, we know that Donald Trump is calling for a meeting between Zelensky, Putin, and himself to resolve this whole thing. If Ukraine thinks they're coming out of this winning in any way, shape, or form, I want to say they're sorely mistaken. Russia, at the end of the day, does have all the cards. And yeah, we could say, oh, well, we're going to come in and do this or that. I don't think we're going to, folks. And I think Putin knows that. Looking at the way a lot of Americans are talking, none of us want to get involved in this. Quite frankly, we just want it to end. And I think for that to end, Vlad's going to have to give up some land. I think that's going to be the case. I could be wrong. Now, the New York Times reported the event that changed Biden's mind about Ukraine being able to use missiles was North Korea sending thousands of soldiers in Ukraine to fight the Russians. I don't think that's a reason to go ahead and start launching missiles into Russia and escalate things to levels we haven't seen in my lifetime. That's for damn sure. A Ukrainian official said the strike hit a warehouse containing artillery ammunition. We know that. On the same day the strike, Russian Vladimir Putin lowered his country's threshold for using nuclear weapons, a move that had been anticipated since at least September when it first announced. Now, the new doctrine, buckle up, states aggression against the Russian Federation and or its allies by any non-nuclear state with the participation or support of a nuclear state is considered as their joint attack. So basically, if this person attacks Russia and this person received ammunition or some sort of missiles from the other country, well, now it's basically as if the United States attacked Russia. But here's the thing. Read it carefully. Or its allies by any non-nuclear state with the participation or support of a nuclear state is considered as their joint attack. He's talking about us giving missiles to the Ukrainians and launching them into Russia, which is now, I assume, either an act of war or a nuclear kind of, we can use nukes now, Russia's saying. I think it's all puff in the chest, in my opinion. But Look, we know Putin's a little psycho. Now, the White House Security Council was not surprised by Putin lowering the country's threshold for using nuclear weapons. I don't think they were surprised, but I think it's also a way for them to act like, it's going to be fine, like lowering the temperature a little bit in the way that they talk. I was listening to the press secretary for the Pentagon, and she was kind of like just playing it off like, it's not a big deal. Yeah, we knew he was going to do it. I mean, it's fine. While observing no changes to Russia's nuclear posture, we have not seen any reason to adjust our own nuclear posture or doctrine in response to Russia's statements today. But I mean, that doesn't mean much to me, especially from administration here, meaning Joe Biden, the Biden-Harris administration, that allows people to do crazy ass things and doesn't do anything about it, but plays down the crazy ass things. That's what people are doing. It's weird as hell to me. And I'm mostly talking about what the Iranians are doing. I really don't trust government in general, but I definitely don't trust Joe Biden. Now, if you recall, this is some old news, but if you recall, Putin did meet with his Security Council at the Kremlin, and I want to break down this story for all of you. Let me get it going here. Let me go all the way back up to the top, and you guys can kind of see this for yourselves. This is the transcript right here. And as you can see, it's extremely long. And no, we're not going through all of it. I'm going to paraphrase. That was my job. I got to read it. President held a meeting on the Russian Federation Security Council at the Kremlin, February 21st, 2022. Gee, that sounds a lot like pretty close to the day of you know what. Now, let me break this down for you. During this meeting, their purpose was to discuss the situation in Donbass, where President Vladimir Putin and key Russian officials assessed the ongoing conflict and the status of the Minsk agreements. Now, again, I'm paraphrasing what this whole thing's talking about. Well, the Minsk agreements, if you may have not heard of it, these were intended to resolve tensions in eastern Ukraine, and officials unanimously argued that Ukraine and its Western allies have not honored the agreements with Russia, accusing Ukraine of refusing direct dialogue with the Donetsk and the Lugansk People's Republic and escalating military aggression. Russia framed its efforts as attempts to protect Russian-speaking populations from alleged genocide and constant attacks, while highlighting NATO's expansion and U.S. influence as direct threats to Russian security. The discussion centered on recognizing the sovereignty of these two people's republics, with officials asserting that Ukraine's disregard for peace agreements and military buildups near the Russian border left no other option. So again, this is the transcript coming between Vladimir Putin and his security councils, and kind of gets you into their mindset of, well, what caused all this? Where was the escalation coming from? Did the United States have involvement, meaning NATO, and it seems like we did in terms of escalating this whole thing? And, well, here we are. And officials warned of heightened Western sanctions, but emphasized Russia's preparedness to endure them, citing a moral obligation to protect its citizens and maintain regional stability. The consensus leaned towards recognition of the two republics as a necessary step to secure peace and counteract Western hostility. I also bring this up because since this was one of the influences, the variables that go into this whole thing of what we believe Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine for, again, many of the reasons, is I think this is part of the negotiations of what might take place between Zelensky, Putin, and Trump. Now, again, we saw the video of Trump wanting to get on the phone with both of them, and I think, quite frankly, he already has. I think he's already talked to a lot of people. Nobody will comment if things have happened or not. And I get that. I totally get that. But I'm curious on, what's going to happen here, if he'll get it done before, or if he's going to get it done or get it done at all. Because I'm telling you, folks, this should not be played down whatsoever with what's going on between Russia, Ukraine, now changing their policy. And it might not just be the policy for nuclear weapons and their nuclear policy of that changing. It might just be like, hey, you know what? This policy kind of allows us to do a lot more. And we're tired of being poked a little bit here with American munitions. Now we're just going to really start dropping the bombs on Ukraine. So we're going to see what happens with that. We do need Trump right now. I don't know why bleephead, meaning Joe Biden, thinks it's a great idea to do this. But there is a clip here, I want to find it for all of you, from Glenn Beck that kind of think highlights really well, not just our audience, but also I think what a lot of people are thinking. And the reason why I want to show you Glenn Beck is I'm a fan of the Blaze. I've actually even reached out to their people to see if we could move the Ball Bragg Show onto the Blaze. We heard nothing, but that's okay. No hard feelings. But a lot of people, my audience does resonate with Glenn Beck. Again, a lot of people have bought my book, also buy Glenn Beck's book. So clearly there's some connection there. But let's listen to what the man has to say here.
So last night, after, a day ago, 2 days ago, we finally heard that the president had given Ukraine the go-ahead to use these U.S. long-range missiles at Russia. Ukrainian troops launched an attack against a Russian border region with 6 U.S. long-range missiles. This comes after, again, Putin approved the updated doctrine lowering the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons. How many times has this guy given us a red line and said, don't cross this or it will be World War III? And we've crossed it every single time. For a man who's backed in the corner, a man who is a bloodthirsty killer, you don't keep backing him into a corner. Or what happens? Eventually, he says, I'll have absolutely no credibility, and his people who have just been bombed with U.S. missiles, which he just said 2 days ago will be an act of war, has got to say, you know what? The worst thing I can do is not act because I'll lose all credibility in my own country and throughout the rest of the world. We have entered a moment of madness. What Joe Biden did is impeachable. Who launches 62 days before you're out of the office? Who starts World War III? By the way, there's a couple of other things you should know. This isn't the only thing going on. There's been a couple of other things. First of all, they cut some telecommunication cables. Who?
Did you guys hear about that? The telecommunication cables that go in the ocean. I mean, this stuff's deep, man. Like deep down there. And a lot of people think it was the Russians. I forget which countries it really cussed. It was European countries that the communications got severed with. I don't know if y'all heard this, but
we don't know, but we suspect the Chinese. The Chinese ship Yi Peng.
I've also heard suspecting the Russians, by the way.
Is the main suspect in an investigation now on who cut 2 undersea telecom cables between Finland and Germany. Why would you cut cables between Finland and Germany? Well, if you're going to restore the Soviet Empire, Finland was part of that Soviet Empire. They've been the ones saying, please stop all this madness. That was cut. Oh, also the telecommunications lines between Sweden and Lithuania. Sweden was an allied. Lithuania was an Axis. Lithuania was under Soviet rule as well. The ship sailed right over the cables when they were cut 8 a.m. on Sunday and 2 a.m. on Monday.
China, rut cable. What rut cable? Pretend like they didn't do anything. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen those video clips where somebody's trying to talk English to a Chinaman and he doesn't know any English? Rut cable. Rut cable was here.
Gang, things could be different by lunchtime. Pray for your country. Pray that Vladimir Putin does not strike a NATO country, even with a conventional bomb. Pray that this madman will listen to Donald Trump and realize this is over in 62 days.
I actually don't agree that it's impeachable. I don't like it, obviously, but I don't think it's an impeachable offense. I mean, that's the power that the president has and that we bestow upon him. But he is right that there wasn't, unless we're missing something, I'm not sure if this was even needed. And I don't know if I'm trying to make sense of why do it. And I can't, to be honest. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. In this case, I'm trying to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt of why he would do something like this. I don't know why you would have to know this would escalate tensions. And I think Glenn Beck packaged it in a really great way of you're kind of putting this guy's back against the wall. And what I also find interesting is it seems like Joe doesn't really care all that much. I mean, I'm sure he does, right? But I don't think he's handling it in the way that clearly he's supposed to be, because if you recall, he hadn't talked to Vladimir Putin on the phone. He hasn't talked to the guy. And Putin's come out and said, yeah, I would love to talk about peace and negotiations. Now, even what he's proposing might not be something that will create peace or even get a deal going, but at least try to negotiate with the guy, pick up the phone and call him saying, hey, can we get things going here and fix this and figure this out? People are dying left and right on Ukraine and Russia. Why are we doing all this? He's not getting on the phone, and it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. And I'm glad you guys enjoyed the little acting out of the Chinaman. Hit that like button if you haven't already, folks. Greatly appreciate it. We got a lot of people watching. I don't know what's going on today, but we always have people tuning in. If it's your first time viewing the Bald Brad Show, again, we do this every single morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Might as well give a shout out to our sponsor. And our sponsor, well, it's baldbradstore.com. We do have a website, folks. It's baldbrad.com. You can go to our links there. Again, it's, why don't we just go to it? baldbrad.com. You can check out our website. We also have a book called Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. Like I said, if you like Glenn Beck, if you like The Blaze, if you like Ben Shapiro, if you like Thomas Sowell, if you like Charlie Kirk, if you like all those people, well, you're basically getting all of that in one book packaged together for you. And it's the holiday season. Now's the time. There's a 35% discount on Amazon right now. And that's the hardcover. The paperback is less than $14. Great book, great read, very informative. It's How the Left is Destroying America, and you'll be thoroughly equipped with any arguments during the Thanksgiving holiday. With your crazy aunt or your crazy uncle that's a progressive. The hairs and the pigtails or buzzed head, I guess now. Whatever the hell is going on.